Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
It's the Buckfist of community radio, guaranteed to be more fun than finding a hot pocket in the trunk of your car. The AOO Show, audience of one. Right here on Conroe's 106.1 and 104.5, irlonestar.com, and wherever you get your podcasts. I am Andrew, sitting alongside the man who could look like Jeffrey Dahmer if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Little Richard Radio.
Yeah. What's up, dude?
I'm good, man. Not much.
Cool. We're recording on a different day.
Yeah, it's weird. It seems like we just did this because we did. It was just a couple days ago.
Yeah. So Memorial Day weekend's coming up.
Yep.
And
the unofficial start to summer, right?
Yeah. You know, it's funny. When you canceled the recording, I was very grateful for that because
Hold on. What do you mean when you say canceled the recording?
Well,
you mean change the date?
Rescheduled.
Yeah, because I'm going to be out of town this weekend.
The only reason we record on that day is because of you. So pretty much any time we record is because of you. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize it was Memorial Day weekend.
Yes, it is.
And I was like, oh, cool. That means I don't have to come up here and do stuff.
You're welcome.
So
you may want to pod me up a little bit there.
No, you're fine.
Are you hearing me good?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, dude.
Awesome.
I don't know about you. I hear you fine, but then
right.
again,
I'll just turn my headset up a little bit.
Yeah, it's the whole reason you can do that.
Yeah. Anyways.
But yeah, Memorial Day weekend. Thank you to all the fallen soldiers out there. You know, I have a couple in my family, so it's.
Yeah.
I guess that was post-war, though. They didn't die in the war.
Yeah.
I did have a great-grandfather who had mustard gas stuff.
Oh, gosh.
So he was a little struggle bussing when he got back for the rest
probably
of his life.
so, I can imagine.
But, yeah.
Well, by the time this show airs, Memorial Day will have come and gone. School will be out. Summer is in. And, I got to thinking about that.
I want to say something to you real quick. On Tuesday, there was a huge random tornado warning. I think a tornado actually touched down in Conroe. And we were here in the studio, and all of a sudden, everything went to black. Crazy weather. I'm talking like you see in a movie where the darkness is here for like 30, 40 minutes, right? Well, apparently, it shut down a bunch of schools.
Oh, wow.
The power and everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of the kids didn't have to go to school on Thursday. Well, they didn't have to go.
And that was supposed to be the last day of school.
And now it's supposed to be the last day of school.
Oh, how? What a weird, abrupt ending to school.
And, and everyone, because when we were at the bowling alley, a lot of the kids who worked there were like, yeah, we don't have to go to school. I'm done with school already. Like, we don't have to go.
Wow.
And
I guess if finals were over and you finished everything and star testing, I mean, what's the point at that?
See, I miss that feeling, though.
Yeah, that was a really cool feeling. The first day of school and the last day of school.
Well, no,
were
not
always
that.
Really cool.
Not that. The cool feeling is, I don't have to go to school.
Yeah, that too.
Snow day.
Yeah.
For what reason again? Oh, it's just one school shut down, so they have to shut down all the schools. That's really the reasoning. Was like they had to shut down like 3 of the 6 high schools, and they're like, all right, well, if we're going to be doing that, then might as well just shut everything down. So that's pretty cool. Good job for those. Good luck for those kids who have a free day to sit on their butt and play video games all day.
You miss being in school?
No.
No, I liked school when I was a kid, man. I didn't have a problem with it.
Well, I mean, it wasn't necessarily the school itself. I was just kind of like, I'd rather be doing something else.
Yeah.
So, and that was 90% of the time I was there.
My favorite part was recess. I was good at it. Really good. You got me thinking about it, though. We're a little different in age. And, recess changes over the years. Recess back in the 1950s probably didn't quite look the same as it did in the 80s as it looks now. They even still have recess. I don't know.
Well, the first indication is they still do is you drive by an elementary school and they have a park or like, the jungle gym kind of thing. Then that kind of tells me they have. Yeah,
I guess they still do. Anyways, it got me thinking about some of my favorite recess activities. And one of the ones that I loved the most was the parachute, the big giant parachute.
That's considered an activity during recess?
That's when we did it. Yeah, I'm talking elementary school, yeah. And this thing was massive. It was probably, 50 feet.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and we would, You'd fling
That
it
was
up and
more-
then sit on it. It would make a big dome, and then it would
Yeah.
slowly deflate. And then we would do games where we would ripple it, or we'd put like little plastic like balls in the middle and bounce them up and stuff. It was so
See,
much
like,
fun, man. I
See,
love
to
that.
me, that was more of a PE thing because I imagine.
I guess that's what I'm talking. Maybe PE. Yeah, it
'cause
wasn't recess.
Recess was more of like, 1/3 of the teaching staff was on duty to watch
Yeah.
us, and
No, you're
did,
right.
we did whatever.
Yeah, no, you're right. Recess was
And
pretty much
then
whatever.
there
I
was
was
a
thinking
b-
of PE.
Yeah, there was a bare input from the teachers unless you were like kicking somebody.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought that's what you were talking about. I was like, yeah, I remember recess where it was like that because we would just make games up.
Oh yeah, Red
I mean,
Rover and stuff like that.
Yeah,
whatever
like we
was
get the
available.
balls taken away. Like we couldn't play Foursquare if we were bad or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
but-
Exactly.
But I don't imagine schools today having that. I imagine them having like a physical education class.
Yeah,
now. It's
I
like
think
eat your
it's-
greens.
Right.
But like,
And you said you did have the parachute?
what's I'm saying? I remember that being like in PE.
Yeah, in PE. I'm asking now. I'm switching the
So-
conversation to PE.
Okay. Well,
Did
that's
you have?
boring?
Well,
like,
no, because I wanted to know if you.
well, recess is always a fun time because you.
Well, so is
You're
PE.
not being watched the whole time.
Well, true.
You can get away with all. You guess when you kiss your first girl.
That's all that you're worried about is getting away
Well,
with
that-
stuff.
I bet that's when the first kiss primarily happens for a lot of young kids.
Yeah, probably playing chase and
Yeah,
And
because
then
there's no teacher supervision
if you catch 'em-
24/7. So you're like, oh, I like
Little
you.
Me Too is
I heard you
happening.
in first period. You like me. Oh, I like you too.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, you're right. You're right.
so, but PE was more. That was boring. That's where I tore my ACL. So I hated PE. But that was like in 8th grade. So
I also remember like there were like these roller discs too.
Oh, yeah.
And they had they were like on casters, really small little casters, and you had these handles on the side. You push each other around, and inevitably you would tip over and run over your finger or skin your knuckles up. Those things were like 2-3 inches off the ground.
what
It
I
was
lo-
so stupid.
So I loved about PE was the psychological aspect to it because that's really when you weed out the weak kids. Because every kid,
Yeah.
when I think of PE, the main difference between PE
Yeah.
and recess was recess you could do whatever you want, but PE it's like, oh, we're doing jumping jacks, or we're playing dodgeball, or we're doing this, so everybody had to do it.
Yeah.
And so you got those the big kids, scrawny kids, girls, everything. Like you're like, oh, I'm gonna dominate dodgeball. Like that was my mentality.
that was your opportunity
Every game, I'm
to
like
flex.
Every game, I'm like, I'm just gonna dominate whoever's gonna get my way.
And we wonder why he tore his ACL because he was
And-
going 110%.
No, actually, I
on
tore
that
my
thing, man.
ACL because the coach was talking trash. One of the basketball coaches, the older basketball coach, and I was like, I bet I could score 2 buckets on you in 3 possessions. So and then
Challenge accepted.
I literally did between his legs, and I went and I had to pivot. And when I pivoted to do a jump shot, it was
Gone.
It was gone. But
man.
yeah, that's the main difference from my memory of PE was like the dodgeball because it forced everyone to play dodgeball. It forced everyone to do the jump rope. Forced everybody to do those kind of things.
Yeah, you're right.
And then PE and recess was more of like let's go smoke some crack. I don't know what your PE was like. My PE was
School in the hood right there, man.
selling erasers and selling all sorts of stuff on the black market.
We did like pencil fights and stuff. I mean, that was pretty street, I guess. It's about as street as we got at my private school.
Speaking of school, young kids being stupid, I was reading an article at the beginning of this month in May. Caney Creek High School, which is one of the local high schools here in Conroe, or Conroe ISD, really. It's all Montgomery County. They got fart spray, like from Amazon.
Right.
And they apparently sprayed it throughout campus, and it caused a crazy amount of terror.
I remember fart spray.
Because I think it was this week I read that they finally got charged with like a felony
What? For using fart spray?
for using fart spray.
Oh, man, if that were a felony,
And
I
it
would have
was
been
2
locked
kids.
up.
Yeah, they got and it
I've been locked up for years.
and it's pretty serious because I think they're like 16, 17, or 18.
What's the charge?
And it was I don't really remember the specifics, but it's more they classified the fart spray as like a chemical something. And no, I'm not kidding you. They had to evacuate the buildings, and they had hazmat teams out there because at first they thought it was a gas leak.
Sure.
And yeah,
Just the term fart spray makes me laugh.
well, no, it's interesting enough to me because I would put money on if it was my day when I was in high school, they wouldn't evacuate the building. It wouldn't be that crazy.
I wonder when those procedures change. Things are a lot different in terms of
I get
emergency
that.
response nowadays.
But
My God.
but yeah, they apparently bought it from Amazon, so it wasn't like they made their own or something like that. And one of the kids even got caught with it.
Oh,
like
that's his bad.
Not
then.
caught spraying it, but just like in his backpack. Or, they
Well,
bring
he probably wasn't thinking he had to hide the evidence because he probably didn't think he was really doing anything that bad that was going to get him into trouble.
So to jump off your recess PE talk, when you were younger, was there ever a moment when you didn't really understand the scale of what you caused?
No, but I have a feeling a story from you is about to come.
Well,
I have a feeling.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's like, because when you're young, you don't really understand like the lines of not necessarily the law, but like, oh, hey, you really shouldn't have done that because if you were 18 or older, like a parent or somebody could be like, hey, I'm charging you. Kind of like, for example, we used to put trash cans in the street.
Sure.
And that could really cause accidents and things like that.
Especially when you fill them with sand.
And like you're shooting water balloons with a launcher over the fence, and you're like, oh, who cares who it hits? That kind of thing. And you're like, well,
I mean, I remember, I don't know if I directly did it or if I was watching it, somebody dropping a bowling ball out of a third-story dorm room, but we were a little older then. I don't think...
No, you would have gotten in real big trouble if someone got hit.
Right. Or would have killed him, But we had people down on the ground. It's not like we were just chunking it and... Because like no disregard for human care here.
The only thing
I don't remember anything like that in elementary or when I was younger.
Yeah, because you just don't understand the size of the consequences that could be.
Right.
One story I would have is for a senior prank. Do you recall driving down certain roads and there's like a tore down lot, and sometimes people would purchase that lot to rent to do like markets.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
so it's like a slab, but it used to be a building, but they're like, oh, hey, we're doing a quick furniture sale this weekend.
Sure, yeah.
And it's like, so they would use a giant blow-up gorilla,
right?
That would sell like, hey, we're open or something
garner
like that.
attention,
Yeah. And one time, a buddy...
Nothing works better than a blow-up gorilla.
We were probably about 15 of us, and I didn't know we were doing this. So this is a true story. I'm not trying to get out of getting in trouble. I was not a part of this. I didn't like volunteer.
Yeah.
But we always hung out. So we were driving, and one guy's like, "We should take that." Like the gates open, no one is there. Like there's not tables, there's not tents. It's just this gorilla.
How big of a gorilla is this? I'm thinking like 40 feet. I'm 30 feet.
I want to say if it was blown up and supported, like with the strings and everything, is probably up to 2 stories.
Okay, yeah. Wow.
So,
and you're going to steal this thing. And it's probably blown up when you go to get it.
Yeah, and like no one's there. It's one of those empty lots that hasn't been, like no one messes with it.
Yeah.
It was on 1960.
Okay.
And we pull over. I'm like, I'm not getting out of the car, guys. Like, y'all can go do whatever you want, but I'm not getting out of the car.
I'm not going to be an accessory or accomplice to your crime.
Well, of course I was because I was in the car, and they deflated. It took all of like 30 minutes, and they put
my God, no security whatsoever.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's one of those empty lots that's been empty for 10 years.
But I mean, not even anybody driving by.
There's no lights. There's nothing over there because they destroyed the whole, like the area or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they loaded up, and for senior prank, what we did on the last day of school, some guy decided to take it because I didn't know they did this, and they climbed on top of the gym. It was one of those gyms that was flat, so it wasn't like a roof.
Yeah.
So they laid it out.
Oh, cool. And deflated so you can't see it.
Put the arms over the front, and then they turned it on, and then we went back to class. And then they timed it. They literally timed it where everyone was getting out, and you see this gorilla coming over the building. And what's so funny to me is like the teachers immediately rounded us up, and because we're all part of the troublemaker squad, and they're like, who did this? Who did this?
Immediately assumed it was
and
you.
we're like, no, we have no idea. We have no idea. And I legit, I have no idea. Like I was like, I didn't put it up there. I have no idea who would put it up there. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Well, anyway, about 15 years later, I run into some teachers that I think it was at a restaurant or something, and I made a joke about it, and they're like, "Yeah, they still have it." And I was like, "What?" Like the school kept the gorilla, and I was like, "Why would they keep the gorilla? Like what?" And they're like, "Yeah, they didn't know what to do with it. No one filed a police report about it, and it was just like they just kept the gorilla."
Except for the guy who was opening the furniture stand that weekend. He went in and went, "Where's my damn gorilla?"
Yeah, dude. And I want to say I have a picture of it. Let me see.
That's awesome.
But keep talking. I'll see if I can find a picture of it.
No, yeah. I mean, we're just thinking of things that you don't see necessarily in school anymore. Like I think probably getting back to what I was talking about, the parachute and the little roller carts and things. The one thing I don't think that kids will understand is how wonderful and magical it was when the television would roll in on one of those carts. I don't know if you're old enough again to even remember that, where they would roll in the TVs into the classrooms. Yeah. And
my favorite is when the teachers didn't know where the power was. And it's like, hey, just to let you know, you probably have to get an extension cord. And they're like, well, where are those? And, the substitute, they're not used to it.
Yeah.
So it took another 15 minutes to, figure out where everything is.
Yeah, I remember actually watching the space shuttle. Was it Discovery? Is that the one that crashed? It blew up? Not crashed, but blew up. Well, the one that was really famous had the teacher on it in 1986. I actually remember watching that on one of those TVs in my elementary school. They rolled it in because it was a big deal, and it blew up. And I just remember the teachers were crying, and I was so little, I don't really remember it blowing up. I thought it was just part of the whole process, and so I didn't know that anything bad had occurred.
Well, I mean, it's especially if it was live television.
It was. Oh, yeah, we're watching live, and they kind of just slowly turned off the TV and wheeled it out, and the teachers are crying, and I thought, what's going on? Why is everybody upset?
All right, I got a picture.
All right. Oh, you had that picture at the ready, by the way, and this is probably 20-some-odd years ago, and you had this picture ready. That is amazing. And now, this was before cell phones were really popular. So
I was a photographer, so I always took pictures. I had a camera. I was one of those weirdos with cameras on you at all times, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I could see that.
But yeah, I pulled it up for the people.
That
to check.
is
it was really funny
amazing.
to me because I was like, oh, that
almost looks like a lizard.
It's a gorilla. It's a gorilla. I think I might.
Green.
Let's see if I have another shot of it. No, that's me at the fall festival. Let's see. That's me naked.
Yeah, I was gonna say you are sharing this now.
Yeah, you can't really.
Oh yeah, I can see there.
Yeah,
it does look like, and it looks like he's eating the building. By the way.
Yeah, they set it up where it's pretty funny. But yeah, they were, high school and the PEs and the and fart spray. That's scary, man. Because. We had those pranks, and I wasn't like a kid that would cause a lot of trouble, but I was always in the group of people that would be like, one guy, that stupid idea, and then it'd be like, oh, let's lock this door and see what happens. And, that kind of
stuff.
Again,
that guy will always try something once.
Yeah. And
think about the consequences later.
Yeah. But today, word to the wise, if you have children, do not let them buy fart spray. Because it's considered like some chemical thing. That
they don't mess around with that stuff anymore.
I mean, can you imagine your son or daughter coming home, be like, "Oh, hey, I'm being charged with a felony."
I'd be freaked out, but if they told me it was for fart spray, I'd pretend to be really, really mad in front of their mom. But then as soon as she wasn't in the room, I'd knuckle bump them.
Well, no, I'd be scared out of my mind because you never know what's going to happen. Because adults, they're power hungry, and it's like, oh, this kid cost so much money.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars, knowing
fart spray. That was a good move, kid.
For all the hazmat teams and the public works to come out and see if it was, all that kind
of
crap.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
So it's going to be like, your son did this. He is the devil spawn. And it's like, he's going to jail. And I'm like, oh, great. Here we go. And that's
man.
Schools are crazy these days.
They really are. I'm glad I grew up when I did.
So.
Cool. Well, I take down notes for this show often when I hear things that are odd or funny. And I actually had this next topic that I want to talk about. Written down for a while now, and I've never brought it to the show until I heard a related story, and I thought, oh, that reminds me of this one story I want to talk about. Have you ever heard of foreign accent syndrome? And you took your...
I'm just checking audios. Right.
Yeah, so you have heard of it. I was wondering. So what foreign accent syndrome is when you suddenly start to speak with a different accent, and it happens after a head injury or a stroke or some other type of damage to the brain. And I guess you take a knock to the head and all of a sudden you start speaking in a British accent or something like that. It's extremely rare, but it's a real thing. It's only about 100 people have ever been diagnosed with this condition since the first known case in 1907.
Oh, see, I thought you were talking about something else because I have heard of this, but it's something. It's on the same idea.
Well, we have a related story coming. I wonder if you're gonna.
Well, you're talking like an actual thing that happened with somebody's brain. Because there was a thing I remember reading, it was really odd. It's like if you're talking, like say you're Russian, and you speak with a Russian accent to me. Well, there was like a thing, I don't know what it's called.
I will speak to you in Russian.
Well, you speak Russian and like an English and a Russian accent.
Oh,
and
okay.
And I start mimicking you on
subconsciously.
Subconsciously.
Oh,
And
yeah.
And that's the thing.
Yeah,
and it has nothing to do with like hitting your head and all of a sudden
Right.
you have a
Well,
French
I've also heard of the mimic of when you're in a conversation with somebody and they'll cross their arms.
Yeah.
And
Same
then suddenly
idea.
you'll cross your arms and you won't even know you're doing it. You assume the same position as the
That's
person.
called a linguistic convergence, what I'm talking about.
Linguistic convergence.
And apparently what the doctors are saying, it's a form of flattery where you're trying to you're trying to speak with them at their level and like to actually communicate well. For some reason. I don't it sounds silly to me, but I can see it. I can see it happening. And
it's fascinating. And this happens also too after a traumatic injury to the brain. People wake up and all of a sudden they're talking in a foreign accent. But what made me want to talk about this again was apparently there is a new fad, if you want to call it that. And I don't want to sound like
a TikTok fad.
Gen Z thing. It's a Gen Z thing, and I don't want to sound like old Gen X guy railing on Gen Z or whatever, because I'm sure we had weird things that we did as well, right? So it's not that, but apparently this is.
Yeah, tell me about your weird things.
Yeah, we I'm sure we did lots, but this is where a lot of young kids are speaking in British accents. And I'm thinking, okay, well, there's nothing new about that. When I was a kid, we did that all the time, especially after we watched Monty Python or something. I mean, we're always speaking in British accents. And I remember my daughter, when she was little, would watch Peppa Pig. And
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, it's a kid's cartoon, and I guess it's made in England, and they have these.
Okay, so it's like
and they all have accents, British accents. And my little daughter would impersonate, "Daddy Pig, can you pass the pink milk, please, Daddy Pig?" And it was funny because she's this little girl and she picked up this really funny accent. So that's nothing new. But what is new about it is the reasons why. And they're almost doing this. A lot of them attribute it to some of the new popular shows. Like every movie's got British accents or British actors in them now. Like Bridgerton, some of the popularities, Love Island, some of these shows.
So it has to be British? It's not like other
That seems to be the most common one.
Okay.
But what they're using it for now is like a coping mechanism for uncomfortable situations. Now that's kind of new. And I find that pretty fascinating. So it says, I was on a date recently when I was ordering something, and the name of what I wanted came out wrong when he asked for it. This is somebody's reporting on this story, I guess. And so he said, I just talked in a British accent for the rest of the order. It was a defense mechanism, and it kind of felt like some sort of buffer for my actual personality.
I can see people trying to do that because like they're trying to, at a French restaurant or whatnot, and they're trying to say like, oh, I know what I'm ordering because I know this food.
Well, but this is because he accidentally said something incorrectly. So then he just finished the rest of his order like this. It says he will also talk to his roommates. It says, would you take out the rubbish instead of telling them to throw away the trash because it comes out in a less intense sounding way and makes it sound like jovial, even though he really wants him to take out the trash. Can you take out the rubbish, please? And it's defense making. They can kind of be outside of themselves.
Practicing this.
Well, no, like I told you, we used to talk like this all the time.
That's weird.
No, come on, man. Me and a friend, I think, probably back in college and late high school, probably spoke more in a British accent than we did in our normal one.
Cool.
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy. What?
It's so stupid.
Well, there's this one lady. She's 30, so I don't know if that's even Gen Z, right? That's more like millennial age, I guess. So she's a tech worker in the Bay Area. And she let it out when speaking to her boss about hard times at work. And she said, "It's affecting me mental health, innit?" she said. And her boss looked at her like, "Why did you just talk like that?" And she said, "Well, it helps add to the levity of a very vulnerable situation. The tougher the conversation, the more cockney I become."
Man, imagine dating that. That'd be hilarious. You're like, oh no, she's speaking different. This is serious.
Yeah, when she starts going to a foreign accent. Oh my gosh, it's hilarious, man.
Okay, well, I mean, I think mine's more interesting then.
Well, did you remember when I think it was Madonna when she was dating Guy Ritchie? She started speaking in a foreign accent, right? But that's probably more that linguistic adaptation or whatever the heck you were saying it was. I don't know, man. That's just hilarious. So on to the next story. You want to go to the next story?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We learned last week that you're not up on the news and you come to the audience of one show for your news. So I'm going to stop asking you. Have you heard about this story? Because I know you haven't apparently. But a surgeon.
Well, I do read the rundown, but it's like because I don't provide anything. to the show.
Oh, you provide way more than you know.
Well, I meant more of the news. I've been trying, man. I've been trying, and it's just I haven't found anything that's. I want to talk about something that's just absolutely insane.
This is insane. So a surgeon was fired after letting getting a hospital janitor to help him during a surgery, and it was actually during an amputation. So the story is a German surgeon was fired after it emerged that they call it a hospital cleaner, was helped during a toe amputation. So I guess the hospital was short-staffed, and the doctor was struggling in the middle of a surgery because this guy was only under local anesthesia, and he started to amputate this toe, and the patient starts moving around. He's obviously performing this, I guess, by himself or with minimal help, and asks a janitor walking by to help him. A lot of different ways this can go, man.
I feel like it's not that big of a deal.
Well,
unless it's like a closed OR room or something, I can get because you're not.
First of all, right. So there's a ton of different things.
But if it's local, that means it doesn't really matter. You're in like an office.
Well, I mean, when you're performing an amputation, I don't think it's like in just an office.
Well, you just said it was
local anesthetic, but it's an amputation, so I'm sure it's at a hospital.
The guy's just sitting there looking at his toe being removed.
Yeah, I guess so. That's what local means, right? But there's a lot of different things, different ways this could go. And I definitely do place the blame on the surgeon and the hospital for maybe not adequately staffing him.
I place the blame on the guy with the toe.
Yeah, he shouldn't have. Yeah, he shouldn't have had the problem in the first place.
Gout.
Pick a better hospital.
Yeah.
Gout. Don't have gout. But then I started put yourself in the shoes of the janitor, though, man. Like the surgeon has really put him into a no-win situation if you think about it. Because if he says no, the guy on the table needs this operation. The doctor obviously needs help.
Well, you got me thinking of those times where it's like.
So you almost feel like you're obligated.
Yeah, you're
to
gonna
say
help
yes.
him out.
Right.
It's not like, oh, hey, can you answer my cell phone because my wife keeps calling me?
Yeah, turn off my phone during the surgery. But no, you're actively helping out. But then if you say yes, you're kind of assuming liability for whatever may go wrong, and you're obviously not qualified to perform surgeries or even hand him a scalpel or hold a leg down.
He was just holding the guy down, right?
Holding him down and handing him his instruments, he said. So, yeah.
And he used a napkin? Like, oh, sorry, here you go. Yeah, I can see that being...
It's crazy, right? I mean, I feel sorry for the guy, but at the same time, just wrong place, wrong time, I guess.
I think it's silly. So they fired the doctor, but not the janitor, right?
Yeah, I think the doctor got fired. I don't know about the janitor.
Rich guy got booted.
Yeah, I'm reading here. I don't...
Yeah. I see no problem with that. I mean, as in helping the guy. Because, I mean, if a doctor needs help, you need to help them, right?
That's kind of what I was thinking. That's why I'm like, he really put the janitor in a bad spot.
How do you put it?
Because he can't say no. He can't say yes. Because I guess ideally he would say, no, let me go find somebody else. No habla español. Mi sweepy floor, I don't know.
And then he just leaves. Yeah. Like, screw that guy. It's just a toe. Like, who cares?
I'd help him if it was an arm or a leg, but just a toe. You got it, Doc. You got it.
I mean, if I was in his position, I'd help him. I mean, because then again, you don't know how dire it was.
Yeah.
Like, because you say if the guy's up, right?
Yeah, I think that's
and
what it said.
Say this guy's operating on your toe, and the guy you're operating on starts freaking out, like,
yeah,
I don't want to lose my toe. I don't want to lose my toe. And it's like, well, we're literally already halfway through this guy. And then, anything could happen. Those sharp instruments and all that kind of stuff. But then again, you make it sound like, oh, that janitor was there for like 45 minutes just handing him stuff. Because I can understand one quick thing. Hey, can you tie my shoelace for me? Like, that's really quick, in and out. But you made it sound like, oh, he hung out for the entire surgery. It's like, well, that's kind of cool. You want to get a beer after this?
Well, it says after an inquiry, the hospital, they say that the cleaner took more of a, quote, active part in the procedure than initially had been thought.
There you go.
The janitor was suspected of holding the patient's leg in place and passing surgical instruments to the surgeon. But I think it would have been great if you just pushed him out.
It's all about the chemistry. The doctor was feeling it. He's like, man, you're a good side man.
I see the way the toilets are clean around here. I need your help over here, buddy.
They're clean, right?
You do such a good job waxing the floor.
Okay. All right.
Oh, man. All right. Sorry. I'll try and find better stuff. I thought that one was great.
Well, I mean, it's the scenario we find out when you start researching it. It's like, oh, it's kind of weird. Like, I get if it was like, oh, hey, my hands are literally knuckle deep in this guy's guts. Can you move this guy's arm for me because he keeps flopping it?
Yeah.
Like, I can see that. But if it's like, oh, I'm short-handed today, can you help me? What are you doing for the next hour? Just help me out here. That's what it sounds like it happened.
No, you're right. Have you heard about the shoes that will make you walk up to 7 miles an hour?
Yeah.
These things are great. I want to get a pair, except for they're $1,400.
They've also weigh like, I don't know.
Like 5 pounds or something.
Yeah.
It's nuts because when I was reading this article and I saw the headline, it grabbed me. I was like, oh, this is awesome. It says walk up to 7 mile an hour wearing the world's fastest shoes. And then as you start reading them, trying to find what they look like, they kind of just look like roller skates.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. And I was a little disappointed. But you said you'd seen it. So you actually had seen this one.
Well, I saw a review of them a while back on our YouTube channel.
You thinking about making a purchase?
No, it was one of those, I forget the guy's name. He's pretty famous, like one of the best tech reviewers. And he was talking about, he reviewed a bunch of random things that are tech. You know, like he was talking about, he reviewed those Dyson headphones. I don't know if you've seen those.
Dyson headphones. I know they make the vacuum cleaners.
Yeah, you're seeing this? Let me show you a picture of this. So yeah, he was reviewing like random tech that he's like, no one asked for this.
It says the average human walks about 3 miles per hour, or a little slightly less, but with this you can go up to 7 miles per hour. That's a 250% increase in walking speed. And he says the faster you walk, the faster you go. And I'm like, well, yeah, duh. Isn't that the case even without those crazy shoes on?
Yeah, so that's the Dyson headphones. I'm putting up for the people. Those are the Dyson headphones.
What? Is that something in front of his face?
Yeah.
What's in front of his face?
So the way it works, it's supposed to work, is it's normal headphones.
Yeah.
And it has a fan on both ears, and it forces clean air as a filtered air thing. It forces clean air in front of your nose. So you're breathing clean air.
Okay, so this really has nothing to do with headphones. This is just a gimmick.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's awesome.
So
did he say that they were any good, this tech reviewer?
No, he said they're pointless. Because he actually talked to a doctor. He's like, what application are they trying to sell here? And he's like, well, they have zero medical benefit. They don't block anything.
I can't imagine.
You're still going to get COVID. You're still going to give people
That's what I was
COVID.
wondering if this was on the heels of COVID. They thought they could sell a few more.
Apparently it was just a coincidence that they were developing this. And I don't know. It's kind of one of those things in the tech world where these reputable companies do random things. Like you can get a $300 Tesla charger for your phone. One of those like flatbed chargers you can put a bunch of stuff on. I don't know what they're called. But yeah, $300. And it's like I was like, oh, do you have spare parts at the shop? And you're like, what can we make? We make cars, but we also make chargers.
Yeah.
Or it's like especially this headphone thing. It's like, who was asking for this?
I don't know. Yeah. Gee, I'm listening to my favorite jams. Sure wish I could breathe some clean air at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make
Apparently,
any sense.
it didn't even give you enough clean air to make a difference. If you're walking through like New York City, which is
you're still going to smell that fart spray in that high school.
Yeah.
You can wear those headphones. You're still smelling the fart spray.
But I'll get you a pair though, and I'll make you wear it.
Thank you. Last story before the break. Maybe this tech guy would want to review motorcycle airbag pants.
Ooh, yeah, you were telling me about this.
Yeah, I was telling you about this last night. Yes, there is.
Let me see if I can find that.
So I laughed several times as I watched the video. So 2 companies, one's in France and one is in Sweden, are now selling airbag pants for motorcycle riders. They sit flat as you ride, but in a crash, they balloon up, protecting your knees, hips, and thighs.
Look at this.
And it's crazy. So protective airbags embedded into motorcycle gear are now a staple of top-level racing, and I guess that makes sense. Inflating in an instant to mitigate rider injuries.
I'm showing the video to them.
Awesome. Please do. It gets better. Ooh. They're also available built into jackets for street and dirt riders. And they're amazing. So they also, if you're not really into the neoprene type pants, they also make them in jeans for the much more fashion conscious.
Not that bad looking.
Well, there's some pictures after you finish the video there.
Like, I thought it was like, you ever seen that movie with James Bond, Pierce Brosnan? I want to say it's Tomorrow Never Dies. But there's a scene where they're skiing and there's like an avalanche, so he pulls the chute and it creates like a ball over him, so the snow will collapse on him.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking you pull the airbag and like all of a sudden,
poof, you're in this huge bubble,
and you're just rolling, or you're.
Well, if you fast forward in that video, he does hit a car head on. It's pretty funny. Now he does. I think this might be it here. He does fall into like a soft bed, like a mattress. Oh man, I don't see how those pants are going to help you in that scenario. But boy, he hits that car. Boom. Yeah, pretty crazy.
Oh, he's dead. He's not getting. I mean,
they're pretty pricey though. They cost $641.
Well, I wonder
but,
what.
I mean, if it's going to save your legs, why not?
I was wondering that because why wouldn't you do that for your chest?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. They already make them in jackets, and they have for a while.
Do?
The pants
sorry,
are just
I
sort
don't
of a new
listen to you
thing.
when you talk to me, so.
Well, you're over there looking at the video, so I'll give you a pass.
I mean,
You stop it right as he's like, "Oh no!"
I mean, that's
about to hit that car.
That's such an interesting thing to look into the future. Is you have this technology that.
Scroll down to the jeans, though. You gotta show the audience the jeans.
Oh my gosh, I can see that being. Oh, that's great. Let me see if I can show them that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
it says if you're not into the Corduva, which is the type
I would
of
just
material,
get those and just pull it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just
And
walk
just
around.
walk around
What
like
up, bro? I never miss leg day.
Oh my god,
Looks awesome.
that's funny.
Yeah, and for those of you who can't see the video, this is a pair of guy that looks like he has massive quads and little tiny calf muscles because his pants.
That's
have been
cool
deflated.
though.
Yeah, no, hey, if it helps save a life or whatever, we're good. All right, man, it's a good time to take a break. When we come back, I'm gonna quiz Dick on what animals he thinks he can beat up in a fight. This will be gold.
Awesome.
Dick, I think we need to talk about something that's really important.
Is this an intervention?
No, that's next. No, I think we need to talk about sponsoring and donating to the show. It's something that I feel very close to, and I think it's good for you.
I think it's important that we tell our listeners that they can donate and sponsor.
Very, very true. Do you like dog food?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's good, because without those sponsorships and donations, dog food may be what you're eating.
Okay.
Don't let Dick eat dog food. Like, follow, subscribe, donate today.
Audience of
one.
Audience of one. Show.
At gmail.com.
Yeah.
Audience of One, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. right here on Conroe's 106.1 and 104.5. Listen to the brain droppings of local hosts, me, Andrew Belshner, along with the jewel of Montgomery County radio, Dick Schisler. Topical musings, news stories, oddities, or just weird conversations that we normally have with ourselves, all mixed together with the occasional guest. You can also find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts.
All right. We're back with Audience of One. We're going in. No, I hit record this time. I promise.
Are we on?
We're on. I like to keep Andrew on his feet because I was like, this segment he wrote up is going to be terrible. So I was like, he needs to practice it. So I didn't hit record.
We just went through, full disclosure, 15 minutes of a segment. And right in the middle of it, he just dumps out and goes, we're done. I forgot to record.
Well, I kept looking over. I'm like, something's different about the thing over there. Usually it's blinking at me. And I'm like, I'm missing. And I think what was getting me was these ads on these articles you send me. And they kept blinking. I was like, oh, we're good. We're good. I see it over the side of my eye. We're good. And then now I look over and there's a video blinking at me. And I go, that's not it. Oh, I didn't hit record.
Now I'm like, where do I start? That's funny, guys.
Well, we're back.
That's funny. Yeah, are you sure we're on?
Yeah, Audience
Okay.
of One.
That's the first time that's happened.
Yeah.
Not recording. I'm glad.
I'm on all my game. I'm
You know
telling
what,
you,
though?
I'm starving.
Yeah,
Like, it's
I'm glad that you found it after about. I think we did 11 minutes there. I'm glad you found it after 11 minutes and not after the entire show, because there was one time we finished up the show and he goes, "Oh no!" I looked at her and said, "What?" And he goes, "I thought I was recording." Okay, yeah, there it is. I'm like, we just did an entire show.
hey, man.
It happens. No, it does. It happens. I'm glad you bailed out after 11 minutes, though. So we're gonna start this segment. Have you heard of YouGov?
No. Yeah, of course I have.
But of course you have, because we just talked about it 11
Yeah.
minutes ago.
Yeah, this is we're gonna scrap this segment because I'm not going through this stupid game again.
Oh, that was gold, man. So I asked Dick about. Oh man,
sorry.
that's
What
so
I like
funny.
about this, what you explained, YouGov was me is like it's a company that does surveys.
Yes,
And one of the surveys they sent out was a list of animals people thought they could beat
in a fight,
in a fight,
unarmed.
and that's it. That's the only stipulation. And to me, I immediately went into like, well, am I wearing clothes? Am I naked when I'm finding these things?
And I like to believe that he was naked as he fought these different animals.
And are these animals their animal behaviors, or is it be mind controlled to kill me? Because that kind of changes my strategy.
Yeah, sure.
So
I think if all the animals ganged up together and communicated with one another,
well, not
they
even
could
that.
take us
Well,
out in a second.
Because we
by the
talked
way.
about, like you said, like, oh, could I beat a rat?
Yeah. So
And I'm like, of course I can.
Yeah, so the
And-
first question I asked him was whether or not he thinks he could beat a rat, and 72% of the respondents said yes. And I thought, of course, who's the 28% that doesn't think they can beat a rat? You know, because it's a rat.
Because people are scared, and so fear is the mind killer.
Yeah. Oh, wait. First, you did start off by saying you gave your stats. You gave your height and weight and your fighting weight and everything. You approached this very...
Oh, that's how I approach things. I'm very serious about stupid questions.
So you were really into this, by the way. You're pretending now. You were really into this. So he thinks he can beat a rat. How about a house cat?
Yeah.
Okay, 69%.
Because I've done
that.
I've killed many house cats.
You just walk in randomly and kick the cat?
Big fights. I'm just like, you think you're tough?
69% of the respondents said they could beat up a house cat. How about a goose?
Yeah.
Yeah, and see, I said that I thought you're underestimating how violent geese can be.
I know they can be, but I know I can beat it.
All right. I love your confidence, man.
Because the thing about these animals, you said there's no kill shots. So, like, for this goose to kill me would have to literally hit me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times.
And they might be able to. You're just like going back A, and trying to get at this guy.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, because if you're going to say gorilla only needs to hit me like 2 times max, and then I'd be unconscious.
Yes, a gorilla only had 8% of respondents saying that they thought they could beat up a gorilla. And I'm thinking, I'm sorry, 8%, you ain't beating up a gorilla.
Yeah.
That's insane. Chimpanzee?
No,
because they're wicked. They're wicked strong.
Again,
they use teeth.
They have kill shots.
They got claws, all kinds of stuff. And like we were saying, that I hear these stories frequently. People have chimpanzees for pets, and gosh.
Well, like, for a good animal to ask is a rhinoceros, because rhinos
that's not on here.
I know, but
man,
like,
that should have been.
But it gets me thinking. It's like, all right, they have one direction they really fight in.
Yeah, if you can get off to the side.
But how long would it take me to kill
you're barehanded.
it?
Yeah, you're barehanded. You know how many shots you'd have to get in?
No, I probably really wouldn't be able to. Not because it kills me, but because I'm exhausted.
And then it kills you.
And then it kills me.
Yeah.
So it's one of those little fun mind games. You play like a giraffe. How would you kill a giraffe?
Not very easily. Again, giraffe's gonna whoop your butt. Yeah.
And it's one of those things. If it's smaller, lower to the ground, I feel like I have a better chance. So, like, when you said alligator, I immediately thought, like, yeah, they could probably really hurt me.
Yeah.
But there's a chance I could beat it. And other animals that are low to the ground, I feel like there's a good chance of taking it out.
Yeah.
And
well, there's definitely a correlation here to size of the animal and the percentage of people who thought they could beat it. I just think it's funny that people tend to wildly be overconfident on what they could do to an animal and not realizing the animals, they don't know limits.
Like for example, a cheetah is lower to the ground, but I probably wouldn't be able to beat a cheetah or a lion.
No way. Yep.
Like that kind of stuff, I can see that thing destroying me.
How about a kangaroo?
Yeah, I can see that thing destroying me.
Yeah. I've seen people box them before. It's wicked. And they come out shredded. You ever seen those pictures of the kangaroos? They have like pecs and abs.
Have you seen that video of the guy fight one?
Yeah.
Well, no, like it came up and tried to attack him.
Yeah, and he boxes and he stands up and
he nailed it.
English style punch it, and the kangaroo back down and kind of hopped away like, hey, sorry, old chap, I'm not going to mess with you. Took off. Yeah, it's nuts.
Even your accents today, I love it.
Well, I'm using it as a coping mechanism to deal with you right now.
What? I mean, sorry I didn't record, man. I'm sorry I can't beat up some animals.
This show is rubbish.
No, it's just these kind of questions. It's like those.
Come on, this is awesome. I figured this would be right up your alley. Oh, what animals can I beat up?
No, I mean, like it's preposterous because I don't want to beat up a bear.
Happen.
Like, why would I fight a bear? Like, why would I fight one?
Maybe you have to. Maybe the bear's on cocaine. You never know.
Yeah, but if I was ever in a scenario that I had to fight a bear, I'd probably have something on me that would defend myself.
Yeah, possibly, but not in this scenario.
Like, if I go to the woods, I'm carrying.
That's right. Your EDC.
Like, it's
right.
It's
we
a no-brainer.
found that out about you. You're a knife guy. So
I would carry a gun.
But that's the thing. You have to be barehanded.
Like, if we're going hiking in the state forest, I'm carrying a gun.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't think that's allowed.
Whatever.
I think that's federal lands. You probably can't carry weapons on them, I don't think.
I mean, what are they? I mean, no. Like, you can come on. Like, if you're going out into the wilderness, and that's why I hate going in the ocean. I'm like, I would never go in the ocean. You're totally unprotected when you go in that place, and it's scary.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to be probably finding some more YouGov polls because some of them are fairly interesting. And
no, I like that because people who think they could beat up a bear.
Well, these polls really give you an insight of the way that we as Americans think about ourselves and perceptions of ourselves.
Are they taking it serious?
I mean, I don't know. I just have to read what comes on here. I'm thinking so, because the percentages were fairly in line with what I assumed people would say. Because you know that you went to high school with the guy who thought he could beat up a gorilla. Like
maybe
there's 8% of the respondents.
Oh, so we're
say
just talking to 16-year-olds.
No, I mean 16-year-olds grow up though, and I'm sure this is probably
Yeah.
adults, but I don't know, man.
I like it. All right. Sorry I ruined that segment for you, but
The first one was amazing.
it was all right.
Come on, man, it's great.
All right. What's next? Give me something new.
Well, I don't know. So, have you heard about the Tylenol murders that we talked about 11 minutes ago?
Again, let's go to the next one. We have so many articles we can cover.
No, this is pretty interesting. So the Tylenol murders, I remember this when I was a kid, and they happened in 1982, and I was a little too young to remember that. But I do remember the talk that kind of subsequently followed, because it just in the recent years. And what this is in 1982 there were some cyanide-laced capsules that were sold in Chicago, and they were linked to the deaths of 7 people between the ages of 12 and 35 years old, and it led to this nationwide panic. Right, it freaked people out, and it also caused the basically Americans to stop buying Tylenol. It freaked everybody out.
Okay.
Right. So basically the case has been unsolved for 41 years now at this point. But there's some recent evidence and advancements in technology and things have led to them to open the case back up, and they're going to continue trying to solve this case. And I find it fairly fascinating. This is what led to a lot of the tamper-proof stuff that we see now, where we can't get things open. You know, the tamper-proof lids on.
I thought that was for children. Are you talking about the seal?
The seal
would make sense, because it's like, hey, this has been open.
Yeah, tamper-prooth and seal stuff. Yeah, a lot of that changed after this. They didn't want people getting inside, whether it's kids or adults.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was fairly interesting.
You know, you ever met somebody, you go to their house, and you're like, oh, can I use a restroom or whatever? And you go in the restroom, and there's different things they adapt to. And I remember a guy specifically, all of his drugs, like the over-the-counter drugs, were in its own like open box deal. So he'd buy a thing of Advil and just pour it into this thing.
You always got to keep the drugs separated.
Well, I meant like
Goonies taught me that.
Well, no, like he didn't have the child-proof or whatever. It's just like in this little counter jar.
No.
And he's like, yeah, that's my Advil. And I was like, well, is there a reason why we keep them in the bottle? But then he's like, I'm an outlaw, dude. Like, then again, I don't really take any Advil. I rarely take Advil. So I think my average Advil input is maybe 2 pills a year.
That's quite a flex.
So maybe that's why I'm so broken. But yeah.
It's not like it's necessarily good for you, so maybe it's a good thing you don't take them.
Well, you know what I'm talking about? When people, like, I love the people who, like, buy the shampoo and they pour it in something like an easier dispenser. It's, just, it's like, this is the way it works.
Just use the regular container it came in. Well, there's one man that's been investigated in this. His name is James Lewis, and he's now 76 years old, but he was 36 years old at the time. And he admitted to the FBI that he sent ransom letters at that time to Tylenol's parent company, Johnson & Johnson. I'm yet to know what type of ransom letters he's sending. But some of the new technology has come out. They have been able to... I guess go back and it's not carbon dating, but find the exact date and time when these letters were written, and they found out that they were written before the actual issue.
Oh, so this had nothing to do with technology testing the pills.
No, they still have that. They know it's cyanide. This is additional.
I thought
evidence.
it was gonna be some cool thing where they could fingerprint it or something, something crazy like that, where before he added the cyanide, there was a fingerprint, and then when he laced it, it covered the print or something. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
yeah.
That's where I thought you were going with
no,
the
it's
story.
not that cool.
It's stupid.
Yeah, they say the investigators believe their circumstantial evidence is enough to make this a chargeable case for him.
What a bad dude.
Pretty cool, man.
What a weird dude.
Yeah, I don't get that. Like, I don't understand what's the play out there. What are you trying to prove?
It's kind of like that guy who puts razors and apples or whatever that candy thing is.
Yeah,
like,
so it's funny because,
like maybe that did happen.
When we were kids, I think this also is related to your parents telling you that there's razor blades in Halloween candy.
Maybe that's why I'm not.
And yet there's never been any razor blades.
I've never taken Tylenol. Maybe my mom.
That's right.
This is before I was born. It was right around that time. Now I know. She's like, well,
connecting the dots.
Thanks,
She's
Mom, for saving my life.
Freaked out about it and stopped giving you guys, or she probably stopped taking it, right? But no, I think this probably led to widespread hysteria, including the Halloween candy scare that parents always told you can't eat this Hollywood. Good God, I can't talk. Halloween candy because it's got razor blades in it, but there's never been any recorded cases of that actually occurring.
Do you think that's why the Tide Pod thing got canceled, because they didn't want you to know how good it was for you?
I think it got canceled because the people doing it were getting sick and dying.
Now they're trying to hide the truth. It's a steroid. If you want to get big, you got to take Tide Pods. Kind of like eating dog biscuits.
Bros.
Remember that?
Bros. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, we talked about that for the protein, man. Of course.
No, of course.
Now, I just think it's interesting. So I have a feeling, or I'm wondering, too, if this is ramped back up because the only guy in the case is now 76 years old, and they're thinking, we may want to make sure we get this guy before it's too late. I don't know. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about this in the break. There is an IT worker who's been on sick leave for 15 years. Okay. And he's been...
This was interesting.
Yeah.
When you sent it to
okay,
me.
good. You're actually...
So...
But just note, everyone, by the end of the story, he's going to say it's terrible.
No, what? No, because a lot of the stories you give have no climax.
You were so excited
ending.
to do the Dick in the News last week. So excited. And then it was, this is terrible after 2 questions. So
yeah. That's because you judged me.
I didn't judge you.
And the listeners judged me.
Anyways, this...
Idiot. You're such an idiot, Dick. How did you not know that was the right headline?
Because I wrote tricky headlines. It's great. Yeah. It's the whole point, man. So an IT worker who's been on sick leave for 15 years sued IBM for not giving him a pay raise. And I think this is interesting because, first of all, I didn't know that you could still continue to get pay when you didn't work for a company, right? I've heard of people getting hurt on the job and suing them and getting like a lawsuit and getting paid.
No, there's work compensation.
That's
a known thing.
But for that length of time?
Yeah.
Wow, I just thought workers' comp is till you were better, you got healed up, and then you came back to work.
I've met people, I met a guy who was a lineman, and he got boomed.
Yeah, that can be a dangerous job.
He's on workers' comp for pretty much the rest of his life. But then, there's always stipulations with that kind of stuff. It's where it's like, oh, can you really walk? And then they hire PIs or whatever to follow you and things like that. And you can't make a certain amount of money. And so this guy basically somehow got locked in with IBM, and it's like, hey,
makes you wonder what happened, because it says he has leukemia, but I don't know if he has leukemia now.
No, you're missing,
or if that's the reason.
You're missing the timeline. This is why I found it interesting.
All right, lay it on me.
So he had a mental health disorder.
Are you making this up now?
No, this is in it. This is in the article at the very beginning. So when it first started, he got the deal, the sweet deal, mental health disorder.
Yep.
So and then 5 years later, he developed leukemia.
Yeah, that's what it says at 50.
So that's why he's suing, is because he's like, hey, I can't make enough money because now I'm dying, and it costs more money when you're dying, unfortunately, or not dying. He has leukemia, so he could die. But that's why he's suing, is because he hasn't gotten his pay raise. Because I guess traditionally in those companies, you usually get an automatic pay raise for X amount of time.
Yeah.
So, but it probably didn't apply to him because he wasn't working.
Right.
So.
And typically pay doesn't.
But the
work if you're not working either.
The investigative journalism nose I have, when I saw that mental health disorder, it got me thinking, because this is in the UK. The story is, so they have different rules over
Correct.
there. And
I was going to bring that up as well.
When I read that, I go, something happened at the office where a dude exposed himself.
That's what caused the mental disorder?
Well, yeah.
Somebody had fart spray?
No,
never the
something
same.
like that, or a higher up did something very inappropriate, and then it caused traumatic
Somebody
stress
brought
to
a
him.
Kangaroo into the office. He was forced to fight it.
Maybe this guy got Me Too'd. I don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, he could have gotten...
So that's what I'm saying. So and usually companies say, oh, okay, mental health
we'll
disorder.
just give you some cash to...
No, not under the table, but he could make a claim hey, this really caused me traumatic stress.
Yeah.
And
he was getting paid $67,000 a year.
Yeah.
Which I think part of his deal, he was going to get 70% of his salary. I'm trying to remember here.
That's what
he gets 70% of his salary until he retires, which I'm
65.
Kind of already did, or he turns 65.
Yeah.
So pretty good gig. So he sues IBM.
Because cost of living goes up, and he's like, hey, I can't live off this.
And he was asking for a 2.5% raise, which is not very much. 2.5% is not even really considered cost of living. He lost.
Yeah.
They said, nope.
Should.
Nope. The judge dismissed the case, saying it did not amount to disability discrimination, because that's what he was claiming, disability discrimination. Yeah. And
unfortunately,
he said, no, sorry.
Yeah, what he did wrong was he made a deal.
Go sniff your fart spray and go on.
When you make a deal, you can't really back out of it and change it.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. It was no, this is what you agreed to. And
but I still want to know what happened in the office.
Yeah, man.
Because something happened.
Something did happen. But I just didn't know that you could you get paid like that for the rest of your life, essentially.
Yeah.
I just thought workers' comp was just
there's so many
deal.
different scenarios. Like I was telling you, there's a scenario that I read recently when Elon Musk took over Twitter. I guess on Twitter he was fighting with this dude or something. I don't know what.
Yeah.
But he found out Elon found out he worked for Twitter and he fired him. Well, what it turns out is this guy, instead of selling his tech to Twitter, he said, "Hey, give me a job and give me XYZ every year for however long." So he didn't technically have to work, but that's how he sold it. And I don't know if he did it for tax reasons or if he did it because he lives in another country and it was just something where I don't really know the full story behind it. But since they fired him, it broke the deal.
Yep.
And so I don't know where it is now. I forgot what the guy's name. He's like from Norway or something like that. But yeah, it was like a sweetheart deal where he's like, yeah, I know I can make a lot of money if I just sell it to you outright, but I don't want to. And I bet it was for taxes. He might seem
Sure.
There might be some PR because everyone hates Elon now. Have you noticed that?
Oh, I've noticed. I think it's hilarious.
Wait, so
I'm not an Elon fan, but I'm also not a hater. I find the hate pretty funny.
Well, when having that, it's almost like there's leaks in the Matrix where you're like, this is so unbelievable. We got to be living in the Matrix. So I listened to another podcast, and an ad came on for another podcast, and the whole
Audience of one. Mm-hmm.
The whole podcast is about Elon taking over Twitter.
Oh my God, how much content can there possibly be?
And I was thinking to myself, like, how interesting is that topic? Because he's like, we're going through the Twitter, like the ex-employees, all the bad stuff, and like doing all like, is he a genius or is he just a tyrant? And I'm like, you're spending all this time and listening to this ad, you already have a slant against.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
Slant against
Oh yeah.
him.
Absolutely, they do.
And I was like, this is crazy. Why would you, like, why? How much money are you making from this? Like, because I can understand someone doing it for fun, but this is on a big podcast
right.
that I was listening to. If you want to listen to it, it's called Smartless.
Yeah,
it's actors having fun. They're interviewing funny, but it was an ad during it, so they have a big platform. So either that, whatever this Twitter file. I was like, this is wild. People freaking hate this guy.
It is. It's crazy. And I know I do get a little bit annoyed, because people positioned him as a free speech agent or an agent of free speech and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know that I would go that far.
Well, he said it. And now every time he bans somebody.
Right, exactly. And
like,
it sets himself up for that.
I love it.
And then they run him over for not allowing, any and everything unpoliced to go on Twitter. And I'm thinking, yeah, but the people who owned it before were kind of busted for doing the same thing, and you didn't seem to care then.
Not even that.
It's like he's doing it in a different way, and why are you so upset by this? It's kind of funny.
I think I missed the boat on the importance of Twitter.
Yeah, well,
like in society, like the major importance to it, because I can see it being important to people, but not integral to our society. Where now, like, I guess that's what's so polarizing about Elon Musk is he has all these dreams, and it's like, all right, we don't really know.
We'll do a Twitter segment. I do have some opinions on it.
Well, I mean, it's more of
you're hungry. It's too late in the day.
No, it's his ideas about batteries and stuff. I can see that revolutionizing things 2 years to come.
Yeah,
and it's like we don't really get a payoff right now, but I can see that in like 30 years, 40 years from now, or especially after he dies. It's like. Oh, you didn't realize this was part of Elon Musk's thing? Because we villainize him so much. It's like,
oh yeah, he actually did have a few good things.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, he sent rockets to space. He was the first one to do that. Crazy. Huh. Yeah.
Now
I guess I shouldn't have been talking so much crap about him.
Oh, no, it's just fun. It's weird. That stuff weirds me out about it because I guess today's world's so reactionary to it.
I just don't care.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Because when I heard that ad, I was like, is this guy legitimately spending his time talking crap about Elon?
When in theory, they probably could have been spending just as much energy with the last ownership of Twitter if they wanted to, but they didn't seem to care. For whatever reason, he buys it, and now they're invested in dragging this guy through the mud. I'm like, what do you care so much?
Yeah.
It's freaking Twitter. Who cares? I mean, I think I have a story on the run sheet about half of all internet traffic are bots.
Yeah, I believe that 100%.
Half.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, that was at the end of the. We'll bring that up later. I don't even know if we'll have time for it. So, speaking of technology companies and big companies, you brought this up last week, but Netflix is ending their DVD at-home mail delivery service.
Okay, so I was thinking about this. What do you think the percentage is of people the last DVD you get them returning it?
Oh yeah, at that point, just keep it. I mean, they don't want it. What are they going to do with it?
Well, I was just thinking about that.
That is hilarious.
Because there's got to be a few people who still do the DVD thing.
Oh yeah.
And
It's got the numbers.
it's kind of like say I got that email like, oh, we're ending the service. It's like, well, I'm gonna keep it then. Like, well, and I had a good idea. I think I told you. I was like,
no, it said they stopped disclosing how many people still do the DVD.
Well, yeah, they're not gonna. They're all liars. Who cares? But you got me thinking. It's like if I'm running Netflix and I have this warehouse full of DVDs, like how do I get rid of these and make some money? Like do something with it. And I would just do a mystery box.
Yeah.
Like you go to and you spend
$5, you get
I would
50 of them or something.
Yeah, like it'd be insane. It's kind of like remember when Blockbuster was closing and they sold their DVDs in those crappy cases, and it's like $5 for Step Brothers and things like that. And you're like, oh, cool, I'll buy that. Like, and they got rid of it. They had to get rid of their inventory.
Yeah.
So I wonder how Netflix is because they don't have brick and mortar stores.
Yeah.
So they have these warehouses of DVDs, and either some dude's going home with every single movie ever made.
Yeah.
And sleeves.
I think there's probably some tribe in Africa that's going to be watching Vegas Vacation here real soon.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because all their DVD players they have?
Absolutely. Well, they don't have Blu-ray. Hello?
Well, they don't even have houses. All right? They live in... No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kind of curious just to see what they do. Because that's the kind of stuff in the news I would want to read, but they'll never report.
No, they'll never report.
They'll never talk about it. But it's like, you probably legitimately have almost like 500 million DVDs somewhere.
They've got to have a bunch, but they've been scaling it down every year. So I imagine it's gotten to a point where they offer less and less and less. And
yeah, but you can't buy them from them. So they're doing something with them. They're either burning them or they're doing something.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what
I think you can recycle them, can't you? Old DVDs?
I don't know. I know it's just plastic because the real data is on the actual print. It's not the actual physical disc itself.
Yeah.
You know that, right?
Yeah.
So, it's interesting to me. I think it's I would spend like $30 to get like 50 DVDs.
Yeah, right.
And just in a box in the sleeves. They're not in cases. It's like, oh, cool, we got.
Well, you would, and there might be enough people like you that they can at least make some money, right? Because like you said, they're going to make zero off of it if you have to return it. Maybe that's what they do. That for this last several months, they just say keep it.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, with this move, it's I read something very similar to the aging technology was Ford announced that its electric vehicles going forward won't have an AM radio in it.
Yes, I did hear about that.
And they pulled back. They were doing it. They realized, that's for emergencies. So it's like if there's an emergency in the area, how else are you going
to... did they kind of reverse course on that?
Reverse
course. Well, they did it because the AM frequency somehow messes with the batteries. And so most electric cars don't have AM frequencies in them currently. And since there's edicts now that all cars must be electric by the year 2035 or whatever, I guess they just said, look, we're just going to stop putting it in there. And we're just going to get ahead of the game and eventually just get rid of AM altogether. But yeah, you're right. If it's for emergencies, they're in quite
the FM here is an emergency for Conroe. So they're just getting rid of AM. They weren't getting rid of FM.
Yeah, but they do have that agreement that they won't kick us off the air if there's an emergency going on. They're going to wait for the show to finish.
100%.
And then they go, okay, now on, there is a tornado.
If there is a tornado like there was on Tuesday, the station switches over to emergency. So if you live in the Conroe area, this is your station, 104.5, 106.1.
That's right.
You
won't get that on streaming.
Well, no, we'll keep our stream up.
Yeah,
with
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Punk.
Did you hear that Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix back in the year 2000?
I believe it.
Now,
does Blockbuster have a streaming service?
I think they may have tried it, but it was a little too late at that point. I think they were already hurting, and I don't think they got enough subscribers to it. But back in the year 2000, they had the opportunity to buy Netflix for $50 million. Just for some comparison, today that company is valued at $170 billion. Hate to miss that one. Ouch.
So they did not have a streaming service.
No, they didn't.
They said that they offered a rent and sale service that you could stream, but it's per movie. It wasn't like you paid the $15.
Man.
But again, I think
talk about missing out though. Big time. I mean, well, they could have bought it for $50 million. It's worth $171 billion now. 20 years later.
But also, it took somebody
crazy.
running that company to get to that point.
Sure, of course. But
so,
you ever had anything that you wish you would have held on to that's now worth like a lot of money?
You want to know a really funny story?
And you sold it, or you gave it away, and you're like,
you're gonna love this story.
That's why I'm asking. Tell me.
So I believe, when was it? It's whenever the original colorful iMac came out, the bubble.
Yeah. So it would have been the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, so it was before, like right when that came out.
Those were called like the G2s or something.
Something like that. I remember because my brother's a big computer dude, and I remember
I was working for the school newspaper at the time.
Really?
And I was working in the advertising.
Were you working on Macs?
Designing, yes, because I designed ads because I was an advertising student as an undergraduate, and I worked on one of those computers.
So this is funny. I think I was like 14 at the time, and I was a counselor in training at the camp I always went to. And one of the kids there had an iPod. And this is right around that time.
Yeah.
And the first iPod, because it's something about his dad or somebody who worked for Apple. So
that's early. That would have been...
The one thing I love about the camp I went to...
early 04, 05 when those things came out. Maybe
Wait, hold on.
06 maybe.
Hold on. So let me take a step back. So when the Mac came out, I wanted one.
Yeah.
I wanted a Mac. I wanted a Macintosh. We always had Windows. We built our own computers. My brother's a real big nerd, and so I learned a lot about computers. And I knew I wanted to do photography, and I wanted to do movies. And like at that time, the Macs had some design capabilities and stuff like that.
More so than your PCs.
Yes. So I remember seeing that, and I was like, "Oh, I want a Mac. I'm interested in Mac." And then when this kid comes around with his iPod, I remember going home, and I remember telling my dad, I was like, "Dad, this guy had a hard drive in his hand that played music, and it's from Macintosh. You need to buy Macintosh."
Oh.
And I was like, I remember telling him, I was like,
"You don't understand. This is the future. I saw the future today."
And I was like 14 at the time.
Yeah.
I was so young. I was like, can I take some of? Do I have any money? Can you give me some money?
Oh, man.
I will get in. This is before they blew up, and that's when. And I remember my dad.
Man.
I think I want to say right after Steve Jobs died, and that's what brought up the conversation. And my dad's like, that time when you were really young?
Like, yeah, I do actually.
And he told me to buy Macintosh, the stock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably should have done that. And I was like, yeah.
Dang it.
I told you to do that. Because when I saw that, I was like, this is crazy cool. And it's funny. I saved up all the money I saved for 2 summers. I bought the iPod, the original iPod.
Oh, yeah, I had one. Yeah, it was cool. And
the second generation one that was just all buttons, like the touch buttons. They weren't.
You had like a dial on it, right?
But it wasn't a clickable one. It was a touchable.
Oh,
one.
wow, nice. Okay.
The kid
I think mine had the click.
That's the first one.
Yeah, I had one of those.
Because we're rich.
So I have a story. It's not quite as exciting as yours, but a few years ago, I had a plumber out to my house. And I don't know how or why this came up, but he was talking about Dogecoin. Okay, and I had never heard of it. This would have been 2020, 2021, something like that. And I'm like, oh, what's that? And he's like, oh, it's a cryptocurrency. It's supposed to be the next big thing. And I'm like, really? So I start watching the price. And at that time, I think it was probably 7/10 of a cent per Dogecoin, right? And so I just started watching it. And it was basically stayed the same for, months and months and months and months. Well, I kind of forget about it. And about a year later, that would have been maybe, I guess, last summer or something, Dogecoin exploded. And I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah.
It started taking off. And I was like, oh, my gosh, I got to buy some. I was at bowling one night, and it was at like 4 cents when we started the night. By the second game of bowling, it was at 7 cents. Then it was at 11 cents. By the time I got home, it was at 19 cents. I mean, it was just crazy blowing up. So I quickly bought, like $200 worth at 20 cents. And it went all the way up, and it peaked at the time that Elon Musk took, he was the host of Saturday Night Live, and he came out and mentioned Dogecoin. And right as he mentioned it, it spiked at that exact moment, got all the way up to 71 cents. And it was like somebody pulled the plug, and it just dropped. And at that time, though, at 70, I put in $200. I had made a couple $1,000 or whatever it was. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Had I bought it, 0.7 of a cent, I would have had, $8,000 or something crazy, whatever. And steadily over the last year and a half, it's back down.
I can't believe you didn't sell it right then.
Because, it wasn't that much. But I thought it was going to keep going, and you don't know, and you think it's going to rebound, and it never has.
No, when things get that big, it's going to fall.
Yeah, it did. It was going so fast. I didn't lose much because I didn't put much in there, and I still have it. It's just not worth. It's worth like half. What I think it's probably like 9 or 10 cents right now, and I bought in at like 20. So, I lost $100. No big deal. And it could go back up, but I just think that's funny. That's the one thing I'm like, man, I wish I would have bought it, because even now at 10 cents, if I had bought it when my plumber told me about it all those years ago, when it was 7/10 or 4/10 of a cent, I would have made some money. Oh well.
Yeah, listen to
the plumbers
and kids
and your 14-year-old son.
Yeah.
Oh man, I think that's all we got for this week. This was a really crazy show. Disjointed, new recording time.
Yeah.
Not recording the start of the second half of the show, but it was still good.
Yeah,
man.
I apologize for that.
No, it's all good.
I want to remind our listeners we're here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Podcast, YouTube. Just look up Audience in One Show with Andrew and Dick. We love people submitting stories that are not about pancakes and things like that. Just if you have interesting articles.
Pancakes were great, man. Come on. It doesn't have to be stories or articles. It can be musings.
Yeah, it can be whatever. We're at audienceinoneshow@gmail.com.
I don't think Kyle, Texas, broke the record, by the way, of number of Kyles. I think they were just short. I need to
What a
investigate
disappointment.
I know. If you're there and you traveled all that way, I think at one point
Let's look it up.
Yeah, look it up. I think the last I heard, they had around 2,000 Kyles, and I think they needed something like 2,300 or 2,400.
Yeah, 2 days ago, let's see. Yeah, they fell short.
Oh, come on. Kyles?
They missed it by a Kyle, or 835 Kyles, to be exact. So they needed 835 Kyles.
Yeah, it was. I heard it. It wasn't looking good when they were at 2,000. Looking around,
looking back at that story, I never got the actual stats on it. Like, is it just the name Kyle or any name?
No. What do you mean any name? It has to be name
Kyle.
Well,
say my name. The name of the city is Joe.
Yeah.
So they could break the record by doing the city of Joe.
No. The city of Kyle had nothing to do with it. The location had nothing to do with it.
It's just the name.
It's just the name of the city happened to be a fairly common name, so they used that as probably just a.
But no, I'm talking about what's the world record for? Is it for a city holding the same amount of people named the same thing, or is it just a location?
A gathering of people of the same name, all
anywhere.
in one place. Could be anywhere.
Okay.
And I think Ivan was the current record holder somewhere in
the record,
Eastern European. We went over this a few weeks ago.
The record is 2,325 people.
Yeah, named Ivan, right?
But they only had 1,490 Kyles. And the record was Ivan, and it was in Bosnia.
Bosnia, there you go. So, anyways, they fell short. So disappointing. Oh, well.
That's an important update, guys.
I just thought of it. Yeah. Like I said, I'm a newsman. I deliver the news. That's hard-hitting.
I wonder how they do that, because, if certain names, like Joe, are short, so it's like, could you be a Joseph?
Yeah.
So how many Joes?
Yeah, if it's one of those names that can go multiple ways, that's like you would think your pool would be bigger.
I wonder if we can get Dicks. Like, how many Dicks can we collect? And then...
Hello.
I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's, we could potentially get 3,000 Dicks together, but...
I think you probably could.
But I imagine, because I'm not legally named Dick.
Right. Yeah, I think that's probably where you're going to get.
And that's where Guinness becomes real hardballers.
No doubt.
They're going to be like, you guys, half of y'all are named Richard, and this guy's Rick. This guy's name's Ricky. That didn't count.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. Like Kyle, it's kind of hard unless it's like Kylie. It's pretty hard to mess that up.
Or do you have to it has to spell the same way?
I don't know. We asked these
what
same
are the
questions.
rules?
I don't know. I'm a terrible newsman. This is a terrible story. It's terrible.
Well, let me tell you what's a terrible story. There's one story you told me this one time about.
No, all right, and that's all we got, everybody. Make sure to get us on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. right here on irlonestar.com and anywhere you get your podcast. Everybody, hope you enjoyed your Memorial Day, and now it's on to the summer. We'll see you next week.